Did you see yourself as someone who knew how to run a business, even with like that scope of leadership? Was that
No,
something that you
no.
thought you knew?
I was so unclear about who I was as a business owner and what I was going to bring to my own table. The real side of the entrepreneurial world, people present it like it's so glitz and glams and you're going to live a soft life. And in order to get to that, you have to go through the mud.
Period.
I had to evolve as a woman so that I could evolve as a business owner.
Welcome back to another episode of the Figure Educator Podcast. My name is Dr. Erica Jordan Thomas. I'm a former teacher, former principal, Harvard grad turned full-time entrepreneur. I am CEO and founder of Figure Educator, where we help educators just like you monetize their brilliance into a seven-figure education consulting business. And I'm super excited for today's episode because we have a special member of our community, Dr. Keena Mosley, who is CEO of Momentum Leadership Group, here to be able to unpack all things related to her journey, how she's grown her business, and has even published her own book, which I'm super excited to get into all the juicy details. Welcome, Dr. Keena, to the Figure Educator Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I'm super excited to have you here. Okay, let's get into this tea because what I think is really most meaningful through these types of guest episodes of people who are in our community, Dr. Keena's in our Wealthy Black Educator Mastermind, is people get to see themselves through the stories of people just like you. So let's start with your story in education. Like, what was your background in education? What are some of the roles that you've held?
So I've actually been in education for over 30 years. I started as an afternoon preschool aide in a very small private faith-based preschool and just kind of knew that it felt right for me. So initially I started out going to school. I was going to be an accountant. I was going to be a buppy, if you remember that term. I was going to be a certified public accountant, a CPA, and I was going to have my 1.8 kids and my husband and my BMW.
That sounds like a MASH game.
Right. None of that happened, right? I go to school and I'm in class and we're doing this assignment, and out of nowhere, my sociology professor says, someone in here is supposed to be in education and you know that you're going in the wrong direction. And I just instinctively knew that that was me, changed my path and my direction, and I haven't turned back. So I taught kindergarten, so I've done school district, I've done county office of education where I have been a Head Start monitor for the county, which looked like being responsible for the oversight and the compliance of anywhere from like 13 to 30 programs. I have established programs, grant funded initiatives, and my last full-time education job, and really not my last, but my last full-time job before I started my company, was CEO or Chief Operational Officer or Deputy Director, COO, of a large Head Start program that served over 2,000 kids a year. We had a $100 million budget, and I had over 200 staff under me.
Okay, so you just gave us some numbers. You gave us receipts because I heard 2,000 kids. I heard $100 million budget. Do you feel like, because I feel like this is what happens all the time with people that we engage with, educators thinking about their business, where it's like they do these like dope, amazing things that the average person does not do. Did you see yourself as someone who knew how to run a business, even with like that scope of leadership? Was that something that you thought you knew?
I did not. Not only did I not see it, but being in the spaces that I had been in and the things that I'm responsible for, even at the county level, right? Helping people to put together programs out of nothing, right? Formulating the policies and the procedures, training staff, hiring staff. Like I've done all of those things, but I didn't see that for myself. I signed all kinds of contracts for all kinds of presenters and consultants and things. I saw those numbers, and let me tell you, I used to sign those contracts and go, I'm on the wrong side of this. And I said that over and over and over again. But unfortunately, when I got on the other side and I became the consultant, somehow or another, there was this mental block. And I think it's part of the conditioning that happens in
Yeah,
education.
100%.
But there was this block, and I forgot what those numbers look like. So when I started, not only did I undercharge and I not position myself appropriately, I didn't even see the correlation between what I was doing, which was already running a business,
Mm-hmm.
because at this point now I'm in a nonprofit. I'm not in a school district, and in a nonprofit, different than in a school district, you are responsible for everything.
100%.
Everything. And so somehow or another, my brain just didn't make the connection. So when I started my business, I felt like I was starting over, and I was very overwhelmed because I felt like I knew how to be a great employee. I was a great teacher and trainer, but I didn't know how to be a CEO.
So you mentioned something that I think is super interesting of like the conditioning that we have as educators, because I cannot tell you how many times I hear folks that, they're principal of the year, teacher of the year, they're running departments, they're running schools, they're running districts, and they're like, oh, well, I don't know how to run a business. And I'm like, yes, you do. Like, and I think part of this, though, like you said, is like the conditioning of working in education, where it's hard to navigate a system and not be of the system, right? And when you work in a system that so drastically undervalues the people in the system, it's hard to not internalize that and then start to think, well, I don't know how to run a business, even though you're running a whole school or a whole district or 2,000 kids, $100 million budget. And so I really appreciate you kind of naming that for the audience, because I'm assuming that that's going to resonate with a lot of people, and we'll make some connections here of like, hold on, wait, like you went into your business and weren't starting from scratch. There was a whole lot of things that you knew.
I didn't even realize how important all of the pieces of my resume were. All of the things that I had done before, I didn't see how that translated to business. And I think sometimes that translation is even harder for those of us that are in administration, because not only are you a part or of the system, as you said, you are also a keeper of the system as an administrator.
100%.
And so you have a deeper level of indoctrination, if you would, than someone that's coming from the classroom.
Oh, this is so good. And it's not a coincidence of the work that you do in your business, which we'll get here in a second. Like as you're talking through this, I'm like, girl, she's talking in her zone of genius now. Okay, so before we like start to get into the kind of crux of your business and what you do, offers and all of that, let's go to the moment when you transition into business. So what kind of opened the door to entrepreneurship, and walk us through, like, was that scary for you? Was it exciting? Did it feel like just a overnight, like I'm gonna do this? Like talk us through what that moment was for you.
So it was very scary. So I had two intros into business. In 2006, I decided that I was going to dabble in consulting, and it was going well and it was taking off. And at that time, I was very classroom focused, right? Which is always an easy sell. So I'm very classroom focused. I'm doing that. And then I resigned from my little job.
Come on, little job.
Let me tell you, in about 6 months, those contracts started to dry up, and I was single, and I was very afraid, and I still maintained a good relationship with my employer. And I said, can I come back to work? And she said, absolutely. And so I went back to work very quickly. I had no hesitation. There was no concern about, my reputation, none of that. I needed a check, and I needed to know it was coming in on the 15th and the 30th. So fast forward 2019, I am in my Head Start program. It is going well. We're doing all the things that we need to do. Head Start has these different processes, and one of them is the redesignation or recompetition process. We are going through that process. We have written our grant, done all the things. Now, there are some phases to this process that should happen that did not happen for our organization. So let me just say, current administration is not the first time that people are doing what they'd like to do, and not necessarily what's in writing. Nonetheless, we did not get selected to continue our grant. Head Start was about 98% of our funding. So that meant about 98% of our staff need to get laid off.
Hey there, I know I'm jumping in at a really juicy part of the episode, but I wanted to make sure you knew about a super special opportunity that me and my team have available. So imagine if you had a 90-day plan that outlines every single step you need to take every single week in order to generate at least 10K in your business. And that's exactly what me and my team do during our 7-figure strategic planning intensive. It is a live 6-hour workshop where we walk you through building your 90-day strategic plan to make more money in your business. Now, you have the opportunity to join us at our next intensive. And in order to do so, just click the link in the show notes to book a call with my team so we can tell you all about it. All right, we'll jump back into the episode and let's get back to this good fire content.
Including me. And so that's what happened. I got laid off. And I knew leading up to that point, though, it was time for me to step out on my own. And so I felt like, and in the end, God was saying, okay, you won't do it. You keep extending the deadline. Here you go. I'm going to push you in the deep end. So I'm in the deep end now, but I am terrified. And the crazy thing is I'm telling people, I'm telling my circle, I've gotten laid off. This is what's going to happen. And everybody's like, great, you can start your business now. I hadn't even told anybody I wanted to start a business. But people had been kind of seeding that in me. You need to go out on your own. You need to be teaching leadership, right? And I just wasn't ready and I was afraid. And part of it was because of the first time, right? But part of it was just I was so unclear about who I was as a business owner and what I was going to bring to my own table, right? And I was afraid of trying to build a table, even though I also am married to a man who has always been an entrepreneur. So he has all of these great things that he can teach me, but I'm just like this, I don't know that I can do it.
What do you think that other people saw in you that made them say like, oh, you can start your own business?
I think they see confidence. I think they see articulate. I think they see smart. I think they see the speed at which I process information. I think they see that I'm resourceful. All of those things are very important in starting a business. The problem is I didn't see that in myself.
And then what did it take for you to see that in yourself?
It took a lot of coaching. It took hearing from the right people that could see it. And it also just took doing it and being successful. One of the things that I tell people often is that over the years, especially educators, we don't throw enough stuff away. So we all have like the letters, the reference letters, and we have the cards, and we have all the things that people have given us over the years. Go back through those things and read them. And look at the things that people don't have to say about you. Look at the patterns that are there. Just like we look at the trends for our student data, there are trends in the thank you notes and the letters and all the things. Those things will tell you what you're really good at and what people rely on you for. And then that's what you build your business on. And honestly, once I really sat back and I read those letters and I'm like, no, they saw this then. How did I miss this about myself? And so I started putting it together. And then when I put it together, I went to that trusted group, right? And I said, this is what I'm thinking of doing. They're like, well, yeah, we could have told you that, right? So it was the confirmation that I needed, but you have to go through whatever your process is. And I had to evolve as a woman so that I could evolve as a business owner.
So good. So talk us through your like first couple of clients. Like, how did you find them? What were some of the services that you started out doing in the beginning?
First 2 clients were super easy because one client was one of the programs that got our grant.
Okay.
So imagine that we aren't, worthy of having our own grant, but the person that now gets the grant says, can you help me? So there's one. The other was the employer that had to lay me off because now, right, they are having to redefine the program. And as we know, right, different levels of leadership require different skill sets and experiences. Well, our CEO was a whiz at all things business, back end, all of those kinds of things. But she didn't necessarily have everything that she needed to set up a program. She didn't know the educational, operational side.
Mm-hmm.
So she relied on her chief operating officer.
Mm-hmm.
So those are my first two contracts, right? But in addition to that, then I start trying to have offers and such and having weekend events. That was a mess.
Okay. So, like, what type of weekend events? Because it sounds like the first two contracts, it sounds like, and this is what typically happens to a lot of people in business, where it's just like, listen, whatever coming to you, you like, yes, right? And
Yes
so
to
it
all the
sounds,
things
yeah. Oh, you say yes to all the things.
because I need a check.
Exactly. And that is the priority in the early stage of business. It's like, you gonna pay me what? Yes. You want me to do what? Yes. Right. And so those first two contracts, it sounded like you were solving two different problems.
Very much so.
And then you were starting these events, which I want to hear more about. And I want you to put this in the context of, like, how did the problem you solve, like, evolve to what it is today?
Okay. So one contract was a program that never had a center. So they needed all the setup. They needed procedures, they needed systems, they needed just me to attend construction meetings so that we could make sure that the site was in compliance. Um, so the other program needed redefining, so still systems work, but redefining, developing the training necessary for the staff, and to make sure that operationally they were going in the same direction. So they were similar, but also very different, right? And also different funding sources. So if you know anything about early childhood, your funding source has a lot to do with how you operate. And so there's a Head Start program and there's a California State Preschool program. They are night and day difference as far as the East is from the West. But nonetheless, they are systems. And one thing that I can do, you can wake me up in the middle of the night. I can put a system together and I can solve a problem. That is my zone of genius, is administration and teaching. And so for early ed, when you put those things together, I can do it. And it doesn't take a whole lot of effort out of me. On the weekend, now I am operating in my teaching genius. So I am hosting these workshops for leaders because I knew that I wanted to go in the direction of leadership development. But I needed to kind of build that out. And so I'm having these, I'm going to say little. They were little in price, but their impact on myself and the participants was not little. It was great. But I was having these little 3-hour sessions on the weekend. And mind you, this is 2019. So we know what happens just a few months later, right? COVID enters the scene. So now I have to figure out how to pivot. Both programs shut down.
Is that what felt like the mess part, is the fact that you had to pivot, or was there something else that was the mess?
The mess was the pivot. The mess was the uncertainty and feeling like I was being pulled in so many different directions. Right? Because when you see entrepreneurship, and here is why I'm so glad that people are now starting to show the real side of the entrepreneurial world, is people present it like it's so glitz and glams and you're going to live a soft life. And in order to get to that, you have to go through the mud.
Period.
And so I started out in the mud and I was doing whatever. My yes was always yes, because I needed income. And now here's what I didn't say. My previous position was a nice, cushy 6-figure salary with benefits for me and my husband. So now I'm in a position where we need health care, and I'm trying to figure out what we do about these 6 figures. Now, I am grateful to God that He was extremely supportive, But it was rough, just even in my mindset and being in a position where before I knew that he would provide and he had my back and he was supportive, but now I had to test it. Right? And so that act of surrender as a wife, that act of surrender as a professional and a business owner, it was hard. It was really, really challenging. And then enter the pandemic. And if you know anything about the pandemic, California was the last place to open up.
Oh, yeah. They had y'all locked down.
We were
Clank,
locked
clank.
down.
Yeah.
And so that was hard, but it was also very good for me because what it did was it thrust me into the online space.
Tell us about that. So when you say thrust into the online, what did that look like?
So the sessions that I'm having on the weekends, what I did was, I can't remember exactly because this was a while ago,
Yeah.
right? I know that people had bought into a package of these Saturday sessions. I want to say it was like once a quarter or something. And so now I have pivoted and I'm like, okay, so we need to do this online. And it's already hard enough to get teachers to check their email. In early ed, I don't know, people act like email is the worst thing ever. So we were all just trying to get into the let's all use technology space. So we get into technology. I learned Zoom, they learned Zoom, all of that. We would spend the first 15 minutes of our sessions trying to make sure, can you see, can you hear, do you have
you
it
on
on?
mute?
Right, everybody, can you, wait, I can't see. What I'm like, okay, this is how you, like all of that, right?
I'm having trouble turning my camera on.
Yes, but your mic is on, and I need you to be quiet because everybody can hear you.
Mute all, mute all.
All of that is happening, and I wasn't that great as an online teacher at the time. I'm great in person. You need to feel me. You need to experience me. I need to come touch you, proximity, all of those things. So I had to learn all of that. And so that's why it got messy. It was also a mess because I was charging $35 a person.
Oh, girl, you ain't tell me that. Okay.
Yep, 35 to 50.
Okay. Come on, range. Come on, $15 range. Okay.
And I don't know how I thought I was going to replace six figures with that because the math, I don't care what you do, the math would never math.
So to put this in context to the earlier conversation, because you were talking about like people being able to see something in you you hadn't seen in yourself. So it feels like from a timeline standpoint, like this was before that kind of awakening.
Absolutely,
that had happened.
Before the awakening. And this was during the time where I completely forgot about when I said, I'm on the wrong side of these contracts. So when I was signing 5-figure contracts for companies or consultants to come out, I didn't transfer that into my own business practice. The other thing that I did that made it messy was I was relying on the individual.
What do you mean?
So I was the B2C at the time.
Yeah.
And early ed people, and the reason that I priced it so low is because early ed people make less than teachers or K-12 administrators and staff. And so I was really being cautious and considerate. I was counting their pockets.
Yeah, that's what we call being in someone else's bank account.
Yes, but I was in their bank account because I was also the person that decided on payroll.
Right.
So I knew what their bank accounts, or at least their paychecks, were like. And so, and people would sometimes even say, you know, I can't really afford it. And I knew that my price point couldn't change. It definitely couldn't go down. Right. So I knew that my audience didn't have it. It was not until I got into coaching and community with people that could really show me the way that I even saw myself differently, and the light bulb started to come on and I started to make the connection. And it was through coaching that I realized I wasn't charging enough just because I have a whole doctorate degree, right? I have an earned doctorate degree. I have a bachelor's in early childhood. I have a master's in organizational leadership. I have a doctorate in educational leadership with a concentration in organizational leadership. and a minor in early childhood. I was not charging for any of that. I was charging like I had an AA degree. Right? So it was that community that helped me to see it differently. It was community that said, you have to stop trying to sell to the individual consumer. You have the wrong target audience. You need to go to the decision makers. And that's when the light bulb came on, and that's where the real shift took place. And so now I'm pulling in six-figure contracts.
Ooh, baby. Okay. Ooh,
that's a long way from $35, right? That's a huge leap.
Okay, so you said a number of good, juicy things that I want to underscore, underline, unpack. So I think it's fascinating, this connection that you made between how you saw yourself in community, right? Of like, of the power of community, getting proximate to other people in the trenches who are doing it as well, but also they can reflect back to you of like, no girl, like this is what this could look like. This is what you should be charging. This is what you're bringing to the table, which I think this is one of the ways I think that education, another way in which it's skewed our thinking because it's so siloed that we always don't value community, let alone like pay for it in a particular way. That's one of the big mindset shifts that we have to go through as entrepreneurs is like, no, you got to pay for access. You got to get in the room. You got to find your community. They're not going to be at Starbucks. They're not going to be at the birthday party. You're not going to randomly bump into them. You got to pay for the access to it. So let's get deeper into that route and kind of like paint this picture and learning more around like what community looks like for you and then how your business was evolving because we went from $35 to $50 to six figures. Okay. I mean, we got a few like place values that we just added here.
Yes.
And so you were starting with these small events. So let's actually paint the picture for a six-figure offer. What does that six-figure contract look like?
So a six-figure contract is customized, and they get a lot of me individually. And now, most recently, they get me and my team because what I realize is the more responsibility you have, the more you need to delegate, right? So it's me and my team that they are getting. As I said, it's customized. It is a lot of one-on-one. It is a lot of systems building. It's actually even the things that I do well that I don't always want to do. But if I'm going to do them, you're going to pay me well for doing them.
100%.
Right?
100%.
Because really, Keena wants to teach leadership all day, every day. That's all I want to do. But the way that I have designed Momentum Leadership Group, and interestingly, when I named the company, not only was I still employed when I named the company, I named it Momentum Leadership Group because I always knew that it wouldn't be just me. And I had the vision and the foresight to know that this was bigger than Keena and that I wanted to serve Head Start. And in Head Start, you need people that have expertise in multiple areas. And so that is what we are doing now. And what allows me to charge six figures now is really expanding upon the concept of the group and coming into a program and meeting their comprehensive needs. So six figures is comprehensive. Smaller contracts, very laser focused, and you're going to get whatever this package is.
So it almost makes me think about like generalist versus specialist.
Yes.
Like that was like some of the language that was coming up for me. I also almost kind of hear like wraparound when I hear like the comprehensive, the personalization, the intensive. So I think that's just a really interesting like journey to paint for our listeners of like, okay, you have to start somewhere. You start at this place of like, I'm saying yes to whatever comes to me. The contracts that come to me are in your network. And I think it's something really interesting to be said about someone can lay you off and then offer you a contract, right? Which talks to a receipt, right? Like, girl, I can't lose you, even though
that's actually a little bit more to that.
Okay.
Not only did they offer me a contract in that moment, but there were other times that they would call me in for strategic things along the way as the program was redefining itself. But most recently, I was called in to be the interim executive director at that program, and I was there for about 6 months. Mm-hmm.
And I think these are attributes of a unicorn. Right? Of like, and I say this because I think this is the way in which education has skewed our thinking is we think we're normal. We're like, will anybody pay for your services? And you just gave us some like anecdotes or like, you're a unicorn when. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're a unicorn when somebody will lay you off and give you a contract because they
Right.
can't lose you. You're a unicorn when they lay you off and they call you to be interim director. Like they lay you off, or you're a unicorn when people say, you should start that business.
Right.
Now's the opportunity to start your business, right? Because those are ways to help be able to see yourself as your future self, particularly when you're coming out of a system that defines people in such a one-dimensional way and as an executor, when we're all entrepreneurial and that we've been, in order to survive as an educator, you have to create.
Yep.
So let's talk about let's talk a little bit about your experience in the community. So you joined the academy, you're now a member of the mastermind. And so talk to us a little bit around like, what have you found to be most valuable in the community, whether it's content, whether it's people, like and this is, I think, the way that I always approach these types of questions, because I think oftentimes people think about programs and they think, I got to do everything
Mm-hmm.
and I'm coming for the buffet, when actually it's like, what's the dish?
Mm-hmm.
The appetite, like you got to be focused on what you need. I don't come for the buffet. This is the entree that I'm coming for, and I'm prioritizing around that entree. So when you consider your time in the academy and the mastermind, like what was your entree in that experience?
So I was literally the entree girl because I had the business and I'm teaching college and I'm in another coaching program and I'm serving in ministry. So I already had a very full platter. Right? But the academy was important to me because I had followed you on social media. I had done B School. I had done a couple of other things. And at some point, you mentioned this proposal template. I literally joined the academy just so I could have access to the proposal template. Just the one little entree. Give me the salmon, please. I don't want any rice, any veggies, and literally I went in, I think I did the first module and I was like, and now let me find this proposal template, which has been absolute gold for me. That's what got me my first 5-figure contract was the proposal template, right? So yeah, you can definitely do it however you want to do it. I think that's what I appreciate about it. I think if I were starting from scratch, right, and this is when I first started my business and joined the academy, I would go in order and I wouldn't miss a thing, right? But so much of what was in the academy I had either done already. Now, don't get me wrong, I went back to certain things and I tweaked and I refined, because the first coaching program that I'm a part of is more focused on being a successful coach and more focused around book writing and basing your business. So understanding what you need specifically is important. I knew I needed to connect myself and align myself with you because of where you are in proximity to education and educational contracts, right? And the educational community, and wanting to really make sure that I'm doing all the things necessary to set my company up for success and sustainable success. I am looking for legacy. And unless you have the right people around you, that doesn't happen. So I go from completing the 1 year in the academy, and I actually asked to be in the mastermind before my time was up. I was like, okay, I know what's next already. I don't need to wait or anything. I know, I understand how business works, right? I know at the end of this, there's probably going to be a call or something. I don't need to wait for that. How much is it? I literally set up the call and I said, I just want to know how much it is and what it all entails. That's it. And so I've gone from the academy to the mastermind, and the part of the mastermind that has been invaluable for me is the strategic planning. Now, I will say, I did the strategic planning freebies that you offered. and they were overwhelming at the time. But they were overwhelming because I didn't have all the pieces. In order to really get the strategic planning, you have to sit down with you.
Right.
That's it. Right. So
it's like lesson planning.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't understand all these boxes and these what are we doing? So once we sat in the room and we actually went through it all, it made so much more sense to me, right? But even in that, I'll be honest, it was overwhelming. And so one of the things I think we don't give enough attention to as entrepreneurs is every level still has a mindset that accompanies it. Every level has its overwhelm, but that's what transitions are about. You know, if we even look at nature, we see it when seasons change. When we go from winter to spring, one day it feels like winter, one day it feels like spring, it might feel like summer one day, we don't know what's going on. That's exactly how business feels when you're shifting from one phase to the other. I don't know I thought I had this together. I don't have it together. Okay, it's great today. It's a mess tomorrow. That's really what it feels like when you're transitioning from one phase to the other. And so when I transitioned into the mastermind, I had already had multiple six figures, but it was time to take it up a notch. I needed to bring in team members. I needed to stop being a one-man band. I needed to expand my reach and refine my offers and all of those things. And that is what the mastermind is helping me to do. It is helping me to be more intentional about my numbers. It's helping me to be more intentional about how I move forward. But I will say this, I still make mistakes. I'm still messing it up. But I keep at it.
Yep.
And I think the thing too that people have to understand is nobody is going to be able to give it to you and you do it just how they say it and it works exactly the way they say it's going to work. You still have to go in just like a lesson plan, just like understanding your students. You still have to go in and say, okay, how do I make this work for where I am and what I need? Because a lot of what you offer, right, is very K-12 focused. I know for Head Start and early ed, I need to make a few tweaks. But if I just use it as you put it out there, then that would be on me. That would be my detriment. As a business owner, I still have responsibility to make the right decisions for my business and figure out how do I take all of this wonderful content that is available to me and make it work best for my current context.
So good. So good. Let's get into this book. So you have written a book.
I have written a book
called Launch to Impact.
Launch to Impact.
And so tell us why a book?
Okay. So why a book is not to be a bestseller. It is not to get a New York Times Square, even though I was in New York Times Square.
Period.
Yes, I was. Whole billboard. It was a wonderful thing. This is the book that builds the brand. So everything that Dr. Keina does, now there's Momentum Leadership Group and there's Dr. Keina, right? Everything that Dr. Keina does is going to be focused around Launch to Impact. And Launch to Impact is designed to help those aspiring and developing leaders get to that next level, to make sure that they have the foundational concepts in place so that they can be successful. A lot of times what we do, especially in education, is we pick the best teacher and we make them team leader, or we take the best teacher and we say you should get a specialist degree, but they don't know how to navigate adults.
Right.
They don't know how to handle conflict. They don't know how to put systems and strategies in place. They don't know how to navigate that middle ground where not only do I now have to collaborate because education classrooms are very siloed. You are the teacher. You're responsible for everything. Now it is, I need you to work with a team of people and you need to get input, and we have a hard time with making that transition, right? This book is designed to equip people so that they can optimize their influence and accelerate their success. And that is really what is near and dear to my heart. I love Head Start. I love early ed, and I will never leave that. But this is what those people that came in for the $35 and $50 sessions, this is for them, right? So they can purchase this themselves, but then from there, I can go in and I can do leadership academies for teams at organizations, because that my offers are still geared towards the decision makers. Decision maker, bring me in for your team. We have a 5-figure offer, 6-figure offer if you'd like, where I'm going to come in, I'm going to coach, and I'm going to develop your staff. Because oftentimes what happens is we send those folks to professional development around serving children and families. We don't send them to enough professional development or give them the coaching that they need so that they can be effective leaders. And then we wonder why our teams are having problems. Is because you have a preschool teacher that's talking to grown people like they're preschoolers.
Right.
And it's not, this is not that.
And do you envision from a business model standpoint, because I think a lot of the missteps that people make, business owners make with books, is first they write a book that does not align to their business. Was one big mistake, which I know you're really intentional with this book. And shout out to Jasmine Womack, who is a dear, dear mutual friend, who this is what she does, and being able to define the space for authorship for business owners. But for this book, where do you envision this? Where does this sit in your business model? Does this sit as like the entry point of how people get to know you? Do you see this as like a supplemental, like adding value on top of a service, or is it both? Because I think it's important to kind of talk through the business strategy with the book, so that way people can understand this isn't about ego. This isn't about like, oh, I want to feel good and be called an author, because you got a doctorate, so you already been writing. Like, how do you position this in the business?
So it is both, right? It is, I see it on Amazon, somebody tells me about it, I grab this book, oh, that's interesting. Now, what Jasmine teaches us, and you will find in this book, is they are what we call money magnets or leads, right? And so there is something in the book, in every chapter, that says you need to go to my website. You need to scan this QR code. You need to do these things so that you can get in my ecosystem. I have this book available on my website, but not everybody's going to come directly to my website. So it's also on Amazon and anywhere books are sold, right? So when they get that, they are not in my ecosystem. But now, because I have that draw back to me, now they go on my website. They're like, yes, I want the Launch Point Journal, which has all of these lessons and reflective prompts that are not in the book, but helps to extend their learning. So right, curriculum, we're extending the learning. And so now I get their email address and I can promote my event. So this summer, July 16th, I have the Launch to Impact Leadership Summit that is happening, right? So folks are coming to the Leadership Summit based off of the book, based off of relationship, based off of past clientele, right? But the first people that got information about the event were the people that are already in my ecosystem. Yes, I'm on social media, but the majority of my business comes from my mailing list. And I built my mailing list over the years. And so, side note, for those of us that are thinking, you know, further down the road, I want to start a business, you need to start establishing contacts now.
Right, 100%.
So I pulled all of those contacts because when I worked in the County Office of Education, I can't tell you how many people I encountered. And those people have become my best clients, right? So you have always got to be thinking about where you're going. And so the book is that thinking about where we're going. Like I said, when I started, I said yes to everything. Now I am saying yes to leadership development only. So in the fall, I'll be starting coaching programs. And those coaching programs will have two. Either I can go to the agency and they are customized for whatever you need at your agency for your team. Or if it's just one or two people, I'm also going to have some virtual opportunities where they can log in at a specified time. So just like our office hours or coaching segment that we might have, you can buy a seat or have your staff person attend this coaching academy because you don't have a whole team. You have one or two people that you need. Okay, great. they can do this online with me, and this is going to be a mixed group. But for me and how I'm going to spend my time going forward, I am really going to focus on launching everybody to impact. And here's the thing.
Hey there, I'm popping in really quickly to make sure that you knew about my 7-Figured Business School. It doesn't happen often, but every once in a while, I teach live for 5 days straight. Baby, I'm still a teacher at heart, and it gives me so much joy to teach about the foundations of a 7-figure business. During the 5 days, I'll teach you how to package your offers, I'll teach you pricing, I'll teach you $1 million sales that aren't salesy, and I'll teach you how to find folks to go and pitch your offers to immediately. So do not wait. Go ahead, head to the show notes, and I want you to click the link to sign up for our next business school. I'll see you there.
Launch to impact doesn't mean it's just for beginning leaders, because every time, as you know oh so well, right? Every time you go to another level, you need another level of support. And so I am evolving with the clients. So I've got supervisors. I'm going to have a managers group, because that's a different skill set.
Yeah.
One set of skills you need for the classroom, one set of skills you need for leading classroom staff. You need a completely different set of skills to lead other leaders. And so I'm doing all of that based off of Launch to Impact. And some people, they will stop at Launch to Impact, the book. And that's fine. But this allows me to have a menu of things. And then CEO Dr. Keena will manage the rest of the Momentum Leadership Group and send the team out to handle those things. But I'll be all things leadership development.
Oh, so good. What advice would you give to any educator who's on their journey, building their business, whether they're early stage, I think I want to do this, I might have an idea, to someone who generated their first 6 figures and they're looking to hit multiple 6 figures like you? What advice would you give to them?
I would say, first off, is find people that see value in you and value beyond where you are today. Find the people that see the real potential in you, the people that are telling you what you're capable of, and you go, yeah, that feels like a lot. Listen to those people. They see the things that you can't see in yourself. I would also say to take stock of who you are, the things that you have done. Just start a running list. So for me, it would be that even when I was a kindergarten teacher, I was interviewing principals, right? We're talking about a unicorn. Not everybody has that, but I know how to interview. So when you become a business owner, you already know how to interview, right? You're going to take stock. When I was working at the very small preschool program, I didn't see it at the time, but when my director would go on vacation in the summer, I was the interim director. This was before I had an undergrad degree, right? All of that mattered and led to this moment, but I didn't see it. But if you make that running list and start looking at those consistent threads, that will help you to determine where you need to go. Now, what I would say though is there are some consistent threads in all of our lives where we did those things because we had to, but they don't necessarily bring us joy. Maybe that's where you have to start as an entrepreneur, but make sure you give yourself a timeline on it. Don't do it forever. Sometimes, yeah, as an entrepreneur, you are going to do things so that you can pay the bills. That's something you do for a limited time only. Or, like I'm doing now, you make it a part of your high ticket offer.
Right.
Because you don't love doing it. Right. But give yourself a timeline on that so you can get to what you love to do.
So good. So good. I am so excited we have this opportunity to be able to sit down, dive into your business, learn your story, talk more about the book, which I heard you say it's available on your website, which we'll link in the show notes. I also heard that it is on Amazon.
Yes.
So folks can search Launch to Impact on Amazon to grab a copy of the book. And here's what I would love for you all to do is I would love for you to head to the comments and let me know your biggest takeaway from this conversation with Dr. Keena and having the privilege to be able to learn about her story, learn about how she's built her business and her journey as an author. And so let me know those takeaways in the comments. And if you found this episode to be really helpful, I got 2 requests for you. One, that you hit that subscribe button so that way you're in the know when the next episode drops. And then secondly, you share it with an educator friend, because we have no intentions of being the best kept secret. And we want to make sure as many educators as possible have access to the 7-figure educator movement, to have access to their plan for financial freedom. We'll see you back here on the next episode of the 7-figure educator podcast. Bye now.